Hi, my name is Dr. Heather Akin. I am an associate professor at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln in our Department of Agricultural Leadership, Education, and Communication. And I wanted to present to you today some ideas, some findings from a study that I worked on. One of my collaborators is in the room today too. But also some ideas about how we're thinking about how we can engage kind of emotional responses when we share imagery about water to possibly foster more kind of public engagement with these issues. Anything I need to do? Okay. So this is part of a project. Troy Gilmore is going to be presenting next on a kind of tangentially related but bigger and more important project after this. But we worked together on a project a couple years ago that was a Nebraska system-wide grant that was focused on using imagery for public engagement, but for other things that Troy will talk about later. And in this project, we've had several collaborators that I wanted to acknowledge today. One is Mary Harner, who's at the University of Nebraska-Kearney, Troy, who you will meet shortly, Jenny Kashwani, who's at UNL as well, and then a project I'm going to share a little bit about this project here in a moment because it's what we were sort of focused on with some research we did on this. But is anyone familiar with Platte Basin time-lapse projects? Okay, great. So many of you are. I will share a little bit about it here in a moment. It's an amazing project. I am only kind of associated with this project. So when you see some of the beautiful imagery from Platte Basin time-lapse, please know that I am not responsible for actually creating any of that beautiful content. It is all the work of really talented photographers and filmmakers who have created some of this, but that includes Michael Forsberg, Michael Farrell, I didn't put on here, but they are the two founders of Platte Basin time-lapse, and also Ethan Fries works with Platte Basin time-lapse and has just been an incredible partner in this project too. So with this project that I'm going to share a little bit about today, actually, I'm going to skip ahead for a moment as I'm talking. It's a little bit more. Oh, I lost my. That might be better. Okay, I'll fix it. Okay. Thank you. Stop. I'll talk through what I'm about to share. I was going to show a couple. Just I won't play this video actually because I'm thinking about our time that we have available today. I might not have time for this, but I really encourage you, if you're not familiar with Platte Basin time-lapse, to check out their website. Also, I highly encourage you. I'm more of a in the social media space, Instagram, but Instagram is a great platform where they share a lot of their work and imagery. But I will just share a little bit more about it. Platte Basin time-lapse has, I think, over 70 cameras. Troy might actually have better numbers on this. Across the Platte Basin that take regular photos that are then kind of stitched together into time-lapse imagery. They also do a lot of filmmaking. It's quite, I think we can probably all agree if we've seen it, it's quite amazing. It's a really unique and novel project that captures really a watershed in motion and in a really beautiful, captivating way. And so with this project, that I'm going to be sharing with you today, we were interested in digging into a little bit more what kind of responses people have to some of this imagery. I work in the space of science communication, so I teach courses in that area, but I'm also doing research and other activities to understand how we engage with different types of media and what impact that has on either maybe our beliefs or our experiences over the long term, how that affects even our behaviors, like things we might do a little bit differently, new behaviors we might adopt, anything like that. And I'm really interested in this idea of imagery. A lot of my work has just been done in kind of general public opinion and how to, construct an effective message, but imagery is so ubiquitous in our media environment that we live in now. We are all nearly constantly interacting with media. It is crazy. I've done a lot of survey work where we ask people about how much they're using media. And we used to be like, do you use, do you check the news or check media once a day? Now we're finding that people are almost constantly interacting with media through their phones, obviously, and all sorts of other tools. And so it really presents a great opportunity to see what kind of impact that has on people's thoughts and beliefs about, critical issues, including water issues. And so what we were thinking about with plat-based and time lapse was looking at some of this imagery, which is really has a lot of, is kind of dynamic and has a lot of, we can look at both still images, we can look at video images. In some cases, they're integrating more kind of interactive elements that share information about what's happening in a specific location over a period of time. And looking at what kind of emotion that actually kind of evokes from people when they interact with it. Is it different from if you just look at a still image? And the reality is that we're all kind of constantly encountering imagery. But what if you see something that goes over a span of time? So you see, even just over a few seconds, but you're seeing something that in reality is capturing maybe a year's worth of time or longer. What kind of impact does that have on your how you respond to that? Are you transported in some sort of way? Are you thinking more deeply about what you're seeing? Are you thinking about potentially what happens after that video or time lapse is over? Are you thinking like longer in terms of time span? So I think there's a lot of potential here. And this, some of what I'll share today is just kind of a glimpse into this that I hope we continue to study and pursue in more depth. But also just something I wanted to note that a lot of my work does kind of survey experiments and things like that, that quantitatively measure things like positive emotions and negative emotions too. It's important to look at those as well. And one thing that we were looking at with this project was whether people experience sort of a sense of awe or wonder from imagery of water, of the images I'll show you here in a moment. And if that's maybe different, if it's a time lapse image versus just a still image. And also thinking about what those positive emotions can ultimately do. I shared a little graphic here that I've used before, that emotions can be kind of a gateway to other experiences, other ways of thinking, can really develop more kind of elicit more effects. So those are things we were kind of thinking about here. Awe is one I'm very interested in because it's actually like something that's not just like a passing kind of, it's certainly a kind of fleeting feeling, but also your physiology actually changes slightly. Your eyes widen, your heart rate picks up, and that is, we're thinking can kind of lead to more kind of changes in attitudes and beliefs and thinking about our world. So what we did with this project was essentially, it was kind of a brief, kind of a quick experiment, quick meaning it took a lot of hours and labor to put together. But in the scheme of things, we did this kind of simple experiment where I use a platform for research, sometimes called Prolific, where you can ask people to participate in these kind of tasks. And we shared with them 4 different types of media content. One was an image from plat-based and time-lapse from Rowe Tower. One was an image, a plat-based and time-lapse image from Mixed Slide. And then another one that was that same location, Mixed Slide, but was a time-lapse, not just a still image. You can kind of see little thumbnails here. And then one of those time-lapse videos that included music. One of our collaborators, Mary Herner, is particularly interested too in that additional element, like adding music to something as well, and seeing if that kind of evokes something different than just watching a video. So that was something we looked at. I don't know that these videos will play. One thing we wanted to see too was just what people are drawn to when they look at these images. What like particular parts of the image do they look at? So I'll show you, you can see some of the images we used in our experiment here. more closely. But what we asked them to do is essentially click on like 5 places in the image that drew their attention. So it's kind of fun to look at, like what they actually said that they looked at. Here's one you can actually, this is like this is actually during the crane migration, so you can, if you look closely, you can see there's a lot of cranes. And these were the results we got, where people were saying they were, what their eyes were actually drawn to in this image. So the next 2 photos I'll show you, they're all show this still image, but these were actually, some of the people that participated actually saw the time-lapse video of this as well. So this is what they indicated they were drawn to. I think it's fun to ask the audience like what you look at first before I show you, but now I've already shown you. Maybe you didn't look that closely, but see what your eye is drawn to. Does anybody want to say what they look at first?
Stream, the clouds.
The clouds, stream, flowers, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is what people actually indicated. It's kind of interesting that many of them kind of follow that loop, that kind of hook there. And so that was one. These are actually the same, they saw the same image and they could click on the same image. But they were actually in 3 different conditions. So one of them saw the condition with the time lapse, and one saw the condition with the audio as well. So they're pretty similar. Their eyes tend to be really drawn to that, kind of following the stream, and also the clouds in some cases, and people like that yellow flower. So that's kind of cool. This is really more, I didn't know how to actually analyze this data beyond just loving to look at it, and for kind of like pure entertainment and, kind of maybe some qualitative, look at what people say that they're drawn to in these images. But it is kind of fun to see what they are drawn to. So I don't know how you're doing.
Fine.
Okay. All right.
I lost it.
Okay. I just drew you in, and now you've lost track of time. So I shared with you, I will share this very briefly, that we actually found that, I'll summarize it kind of to try to be succinct here, but the scales we used were mostly quantitative, asking people to indicate how much awe they felt, but also how much, what emotions they felt. And I use a scale called the moderated or modified differential emotions scale, if anyone's interested, that includes both positive and negative emotions. And we found, kind of generally speaking, that people reported actually experiencing kind of awe, some sort of awe from all of these images. And we actually didn't see a huge difference, at least across the all the images that we showed, except that the mixed slide images, which are the 3 on the right, people reported kind of experiencing more awe. I kind of sense they didn't realize what they were. If you like looked very closely at Row Tower here and you realize how many cranes there are in this image, you might experience some awe from that. But based on how people look at it, this is how kind of what they reported, seeing that they did actually report experiencing awe from looking at these images, and particularly these images from mixed slide, and but not a significant difference really, interestingly, between the time-lapse imagery and with audio and without audio. So that was kind of interesting. The other thing that we investigated with this was how people feel maybe a connection to a place from looking at images like this. So the idea of sense of presence or sense of place was also something we measured. And in general, people reported that they, in particular, felt interested in this place. I always kind of am drawn to this item of this place should be preserved as it is, particularly when we're talking about ecological locations, maybe someplace that, this was people from across the United States. So they didn't know when they saw these images exactly where it was. But they indicated with a pretty high, rating here that they felt that this place should be preserved as it is. So if you're thinking about, people just looking at media, And this could have been on their computer, it could have been on their phone, their iPad, whatever the case might be on this, with this little experiment that they reported that they did feel that this place should be as it is. So just to share, there's a lot of data with this as brief as a little experiment as it was, there's a lot to look at with this, including that we, found that people experienced awe from interacting or looking at these images, and that emotions that they reported were almost entirely positive. We didn't have any, it's maybe not unexpected. They're really beautiful images, and wouldn't necessarily elicit some kind of like sad. We would think it would encourage any kind of negative emotion, but we did not see that in the data. And obviously want to look a lot more deeply into this. And some things that I'm interested in are how that might link to maybe more specific behaviors, whether it's like, I would go visit this place, or I would, donate funds to support this place, or I would, maybe change a specific other behavior. But also I think this just has some interesting implications for how we communicate about ecological change, essentially. So we can't always ask to for someone to travel to a place or to send money to to support an initiative or to support a specific policy, but these kind of small moments of engagement might have a lot of opportunity as a gateway to engagement and change. So I think I'll end with that note. And hopefully Crystal is sort of on time.
Yeah, you still have a couple minutes of
Okay.
question.
Okay.
Yes, could you explain what was the definition you had of sense of place versus sense of presence?
Oh, that's a good question. I have to look back. I don't know if I recall the literature. It's a 4-item scale that we use. Let me look at how these questions are. Okay, this is all sense of place. Sense of presence, I think we're a different set. I wanted to share that we essentially measure these. I'd be happy to share with you too, if it's ever helpful, the specific questions of being sense of presence, I think is feeling kind of as though you are there. As though you kind of are, like I said, the kind of transportation to that place through media. Sense of place is a kind of a sense that a place is unique or special, including that you might visit that place or that it should be preserved. So I use kind of a standard set of questions around those. Be happy to share that actually, like the references.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever manipulate the quality of the images to try to tease out the degree to which people are reacting to the place versus quality, like contrast, color, those kinds of things? Cause they're just looking across it, my own opinion, right? I'm looking at stuff, it's like, wow, that's got a lot better image quality.
Yes, yeah, well, all the plant-based timeline, like they have really high image quality in general, but something I'm interested in, I haven't, this is in the back of my mind, I keep wanting to look at whether people looked at it on their phone versus on their computer. And I haven't done that yet, but I haven't looked, we haven't looked at that specifically, but I would imagine. I would hypothesize that there's something there. So you feel like you see a difference in quality?
Well, it's just, you called out the one with the birds and the 47%, and I look at that and I don't see as much color contrast,
Yeah.
movement of the eye, some of the artistic things you
Yeah.
can think about.
Right, yeah.
No idea if there's anything to it.
Yeah, and it can be hard to tease out, right? There's so much difference in these videos and or in these images in different ways, whether it's color or content or all of those things. Yeah, yes.
Did you check the age and gender?
Yeah, I don't know that I looked at that yet. There's so much we can look at here, I didn't test for age and gender yet.
Goodness.
One more question. Very good. I always take away from these, then I need to have really good images in presentations.
Yeah,
A lot of those.
great. That's your like first step is, images can.
Yes.
Okay, I think we go straight into